Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome into another installment of the Keep Boone Healthy Community Information Channel. I am David Jackson, President and CEO of the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce. Today is Monday, the 29th of November. Where does the time go, right? As we come down the close of this calendar year, we are awfully excited to understand and begin to learn more about a brand new state budget here in North Carolina and the millions of dollars that it will bring to Watauga County. And we are pleased to be joined today by Senator Deanna Ballard, Representative Ray Pickett, two of our local representatives that have worked tirelessly on making sure that not only state matters were addressed, but the citizens of Watauga County had their voice in this process and ultimately will benefit from it moving forward. So, Senator Ballard, we'll start with you. Just kind of an overall comment on maybe what went into this process, how long you've been working on it, and your overall impressions of what this budget will mean for the citizens of Watauga County.
Well, I've been working on this budget actually since I would say March. So this has been a long time coming for me. I'm super excited to get it across the finish line. Of course, everyone knows I am chair of education, appropriations, and policy. So a lot of my focused efforts have been in that space as well, but also in broadband and the work that we're trying to get done and do there, as well as overall, there's been additional, I think, $1 billion in funding for broadband just across the state. So I'm excited to see just kind of the great grant program that's increased in funding there, and as well as using some of those non-recurring federal dollars for some competitive grants to providers to expand availability to in kind of unserved areas. So there's a lot of investment that happened in broadband, which we're excited about. And then, of course, in education, we've spent more money in across all education sectors, from the community colleges to K-12 to the UNC system. Just across all sectors, dollars have just increased. And so in working with the county, really been mindful too of a lot of the school construction that's been increased as well, and just the opportunity for funding available for even what we call tier three counties, which is Watauga County. So you'll see kind of some difference, I think some improvements in criteria there that would allow, I think, more opportunity for Watauga to apply for some of those additional dollars too. But I'll let Ray speak to a few other points as well. But as you can see, and folks know, that there are, some local projects. We definitely listen to constituents and just to our community leaders and kind of what the needs were, and being able to address those. So whether that's, in conservation and water and sewer projects, there's a lot of exciting stuff really that's going to come back home.
Nothing as exciting as water and sewer, right? That's really what gets the ratings.
It's not super sexy, but it's needed. It's fundamental.
Right. Infrastructure is something that we have talked about a lot in our work, certainly. And I want to circle back to broadband in a moment. But Ray, first, your thoughts on just this budget process and what you were trying to accomplish from your side.
Well, I've been involved since March as well, being on the Appropriations Committee and also the Capital Committee. We worked diligently till now to get this budget done, and we're really happy about it. You mentioned water and sewer. That was a big project I worked on for some of the municipalities in Watauga County, Beach Mountain, Seven Devils, and Blowing Rock. It's not a sexy thing, but it's something that we've got to think about. And when it doesn't work, you think about it. And that's was a big priority of mine this session, was to get some of that money sent into the towns to help them rebuild some of their water and sewer projects. And we've got some good stuff in there. Education was a big thing. Helping the community colleges was big to me, because being a product of the community college, that was very important to me. And I really think we helped them out this time.
Maybe for both of you, and Ray, I'll start with you on this one. When we look at some of the different funding sources that are available to the state right now, certainly getting the budget passed was a key organizational component to unlocking other dollars through things like the American Rescue Plan and some of these other funding measures. How did you all work in the budgeting process to make sure that you were taking the best swing at those one-time dollars and allocating those appropriately, while understanding that a biennium budget is going to be able to unlock some of those longer-term projects and maybe be better suited for that, if that makes sense? How did you work those two things in concert with one another rather than against one another?
Well, we had to sort of analyze what it was for. And like I said, water and sewer was a big one. Everyone across the state has been talking about water and sewer and how we have fallen behind in that particular area. So we really concentrated on things like that. And we concentrated on infrastructure of our university systems, our school systems, trying to help them get the things they needed to move forward. And we had to look at one-time expenditures because this was one-time money. We could not, you couldn't tie reoccurring funds to something that's not reoccurring. So that was a strong emphasis this time.
And I can add to that a little bit. I mean, so what happens is you get all the different buckets of money, and there's different criteria and guidelines, whether it's from the Treasury or, that guidelines that have come down that you can spend it in certain ways. So it really is kind of going through the needs and the priorities that we've been hashing out anyway in the budget process, and understanding kind of what would be allowable uses for certain projects, certain buckets, and then taking it, leveraging that in such a way that we're still protecting kind of the state budget and using those dollars for what we might consider more recurring and long-term type projects and funding as well, and that state investment. But it really is a very thoughtful and very deliberative process in analyzing and going through kind of what those Treasury guidelines were stipulating. And that's sometimes why it probably took a little longer than what we would have liked, because there were guidelines that were changing from the feds like along the way. So we were trying to, really work in that space as best as we could.
So one of those areas that immediately comes to mind about how you've got opportunities with both state dollars and programs that have been funded and saw more allocations given to them, like you mentioned the Great Grant Program and how that applies to broadband deployment. We know that part of the federal funding that will be coming as part of some of the COVID packages will also hit broadband. Where do you both feel like, and Deanna, we'll start with you on this one, where do you both feel like that advances the game here in Watauga County? Popular to, or maybe not as popular to some off the mountain observers. This is a county that is still underserved in several areas, and that hits real estate, education, work from home, all of those all of those different categories. So how do you feel like tactically that money will enhance what Watauga County can see as broadband deployment in the years to come? Because I know this isn't an overnight process either.
Right. I mean, I think it's a strategic and a smart choice for the county to invest even some of their own dollars, but also to match that with the state. So then perhaps we can just fill that gap and close the gap in those areas that are unserved. So I do think, having communication, we've talked with the county and even some of their uses of how those dollars are being spent so that we understand here's what else you have to complement those efforts to. So let's just get the biggest bang for our buck in this space, knowing that this is still like a priority and a need for us across all, industries. From school to work, to the university, all of it. It's still, I think COVID really heightened and magnified that need even more. So I think we're all in agreement that was, is a priority for us still moving forward. So I think we're being very smart about working together, communicating regularly on how that's going to work, how we can get ahead of the game. I think Watauga has been a little bit ahead of the game in some of the other counties and really leveraging, our resources and our local partnerships in order to really speed up kind of the opportunity and the process of executing. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Ray, to that point, sometimes these large projects that have been wish list items for a long time, especially in the time that it takes to get them deployed, in a budget like this, you mentioned some of those infrastructure projects can carry some heavy price tags. Do you feel like this combination of funds will be able to advance not only this area forward, but other areas within the state and being able to check off some of those nagging projects, if you will, that may have just been financially a little bit hard to do in a normal year, but in this year with multiple funds available, they're a little bit more palatable?
It definitely will. You've got a lot of small towns that have a hard time coming up with the funds to replace some of these items that need to be replaced. They have to go after loans that are long-term. They have to raise their taxes. And this will really help those towns move some of their infrastructure forward. And going back to the broadband you were just speaking about, that could be a game changer for places in the high country. We have learned that so many people can work from home now. It could be an opportunity for some different type of industry to come in to the high country that they need that broadband. So it could be a great opportunity for everyone in the high country.
Want to be mindful of both of your time commitments here. So one more question for each of you. Ray, I'll start with you on this. You talked earlier about the Middle Fork Greenway, and that was a part of that community connection, if you will, through some great opportunities that came for land conservation within this budget. But the Middle Fork Greenway has been a project we've talked about for a long time in this community. How do you see this budget impacting that moving forward?
Well, it's got a good substantial amount of money in for the Middle Fork Greenway. I think the Middle Fork will be great. I have been involved with the Middle Fork since before it ever got started, back when it was just a small committee, seeing a couple of different directors come in, and they have all done a wonderful job of getting it moving. And anyone that drives between Boone and Blowing Rock can drive right by and see what's happening. The 2 new bridges that are put in, the new parking area that's going in. I think this is going to be a game changer for outdoor recreation in that area. And we hope that we can expand it on further. So that was been important to me. And I think this budget really helps them out.
Well, and certainly seeing the opportunity for economic development projects along that corridor as time moves on is certainly something exciting to see. And we all have big dreams of what that will bring in the future. Deanna, to wrap up with you, I think it goes without saying, too, a huge part of this budget allocation for Watauga County centers on the Appalachian State campus. You've been very involved with the education committee work in making sure that higher education partners around the state have the resources that they need to have to do what they need to do. How do you see this continuing the transformation of App State's campus as they move forward in trying to accept and anticipate new challenges that the region will need moving forward?
Oh, I think this sets them up in a good position. I mean, App State has been very appreciative. I think this is kind of the largest dollar amount that they've received ever in a biennium budget. So I think they're excited about a lot of the capital, the R&R projects, but also kind of new projects too that are in the fold. And then they're able to leverage maybe perhaps some of those state dollars as well for additional private dollars to raise and sort of come alongside them in that process. But across the entire, state, we've made huge investments in our HBCUs as well this session. And then as well as in our community colleges. But we're excited about what work is being done through the UNC system, and want to continue to foster that. But also, in our K-12 space, I cannot say enough about the work our teachers are doing, our school leaders and community leaders, and just the partnerships that have developed. And Dr. Elliott's just continued just leadership in that space. It's been a challenging year for all of them. So we're thrilled to be able to kind of offer, we have this whole new low supplemental, or the supplemental funding for teachers this year, where Watauga County is actually going to get $855 per teacher that they'll be able to have access to complement kind of that local supplement that Watauga County already gives. So we are continuing, to really, do our work, do our part, and investing in our teachers and their leadership. But again, I kind of want to echo too on the conservation work. I think Ray and I really have a true understanding and value how the tourism is to our region and to our district. So, I've been in since 2016, been a big supporter of the Middle Fork Greenway, but also you'll notice another $50,000 for the Northern Peaks Trail, which is really a trail that would connect West Jefferson or Jefferson to Blowing Rock eventually. So what we're trying to do is really come alongside and pour in at the front end, as much as we can when we can, and show that we are supporting and doing our part and helping these projects really come to fruition, because it is only going to be impactful for our region and the community at large. So those are really, some solid work that's been done. And then one other highlight, if I may, is the business recovery grant program that's in the budget. There's about $500 million non-recurring for grant to aid businesses that suffered substantial economic damage. And that can be businesses that have not even previously received an award like over the last year. So I think that's really important to understand that there are still dollars out there for those small businesses. They need to kind of look at that criteria, and perhaps, David, you and the chamber team can even help some of those businesses be aware of that grant opportunity. So I would say from beauty salons to your tire stores, whatever the impact might have been, whatever help they might still need, that there's still dollars there that's available. So just be mindful of that. There's a lot in this budget. So it's really, educating oneself and the community little by little. As far as even all the tax packages and the grant programs, PPP loan forgiveness, just all of that space, the broadband grant buckets. So there's a lot for, I think, the county to be paying attention to, the town leaders to be paying attention to, and just, the business community at large as well.
That's right. And as we get more detailed information about that grant recovery program, I know we put out some initial information. There'll be more coming from some of our partners that tend to take that state language and dial it down into a way that us average Joes can actually understand it. As those things come across here in the next days and weeks, we certainly will pass those along to our constituency here. One last quick thing for you. This is a process, right? What's something that people might not get about what it takes to put a budget together? I'll let you maybe give us a fun anecdote, or maybe a not so fun anecdote about what goes into a process like this to ultimately get us to where we've got.
A lot of late nights.
I bet that's right.
I would say, you really are behind closed doors a lot. So there are days where, you're not getting out until, it's late in the evening and you haven't been outside all day, because that's just, each side, each chamber is really working together. But I think also most folks need to understand, I work a lot with my Democrat counterparts. So, we do have conversations with them. This is not something that's just strictly like all us and nobody else. That is not how this works. So I think that's very important for folks to understand, and that, they have skin in the game too, and that they have valuable insights and as much of a voice in kind of what their needs are in their communities, and that they are stepping up, and that we're trying to look out for those guys too. So it's not about this or that, or this team or that team. It really is a lot of communication and a lot of, I think this round has been especially difficult due to the amount of federal dollars that come in the different phases. And then some of the Treasury guidance sort of coming in a little later and behind what some of the dollars were, coming in for, and then what you could use them for. So I think we're trying not to get too ahead of our skis a little bit, and then being smart about really how we're leveraging those dollars with our state dollars. And, we actually have a rainy day fund now that's $4.25 billion. That is huge, and that's awesome. That's going to set us up so well moving forward in the future too. But we also we had one of the largest spend budgets we've ever had at, I think, $25.9 billion, and then $27 billion in the second year, I think. So, it's a large budget spend for us.
Well, certainly those dollars spent will lead to great opportunities for the community. I appreciate both of you being willing to listen to your constituents. I think that's the most valuable part of this, no matter what party is in control or is your representative. The fact that your representatives listen to you, and that the voices and concerns of Watauga County were taken forward in this process, we have both of you to thank for that. So appreciate all you did for this. I know that you'd rather not talk about it all the time, but I'm glad you had a chance to maybe help explain it a little bit further to our folks and let them know where some of those opportunities are to learn more about it. So we'll look forward to sharing that information. Appreciate both of your times on a very busy Monday for you both.
And we're happy to answer questions along the way.
And we'll send them to you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all both very much.